Hi everyone, we're going to start in about 30 seconds or so, just to give everyone a chance to come in.
It's always the part where you need a bit of lift music, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Right, okay, we're going to get started. Great to see so many of you attend today. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day to learn a little bit more about actionable email insights. For those of you who have done any, who have done or are doing any homeschooling, then I hope this presents some welcome respite. It certainly does for me. So, in terms of, I'm not sure if any of you have New Year's resolutions or if you just like to feel a bit more on top of your inbox this year. So that's what we're going to talk about over the next half an hour. We're aiming for this to be about sort of 15 to 20 minutes worth of content, and then to leave 10 minutes for questions at the end. If you can use the Zoom chat facility to post any questions, that would be much appreciated. So just to make sure that's working, I'm going to put in the message, hi everyone, and if you've seen that, if you can just type in hi or hello back, that would be great. Hi Robert, hi Neil, Adrian. I won't say everyone's name, but we'll go on for that'll go on for far too long. So looks like that's working, so good start. So in terms of the agenda for today, my name's Jacob Wardrop, and I'm one of the directors here at Mail Manager. We're a spin out of Arup, effectively, who are a multidisciplinary global professional services business. And I've got my colleague Lucy Pryor on the webinar today as well, who's going to be presenting Arup's approach to managing inboxes. So hi Lucy.
Hi Jacob, thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to showing you this today.
So in terms of what we're going to cover, we're going to talk through the importance of managing your inbox and really the link between your inbox and your productivity and how that naturally crosses over into your kind of work-life balance and how we all feel about work. So I'm sure nobody looks forward to getting back from holiday and opening up their inbox. Well, I know I certainly don't. Next thing we're going to talk about is just the increasing importance of email. I think probably 2 to 3 years ago, we probably thought Skype or WhatsApp or Teams was going to take over the world, but the reality is we just have a lot more communication from a lot more channels, which we'll talk through. And then we really want you to leave with some actionable tips, some to do with Mail Manager, but also some to do with just using Outlook better, which help you get a bit more control of your inbox. And then finally, we're going to finish with how we encourage our staff and what we do to manage email proactively for the benefit of the company as well as our staff. So to get straight into it, I'm sure everyone has, whether they've got New Year's resolutions or goals for 2021. Naturally, I think probably the last year's felt really intense for all of us. If you're working from home all of the time, there's definitely some overscheduling going on where we've all got so used to being back to back for a long time. And if you're working with clients or on projects or on casework, whatever it is, I think we've probably all had lots of challenges and problems come up. Some of which come from over communication and some of which come from under communication. But we're going to talk today about trying to address issues before they become problems, how to free up and get some time back in your day. So when you leave the office on a Friday, you've got nothing in your inbox, as well as, I suppose, is just think about the things we do differently if we're approaching last year again. And I think a couple of things which come up in our conversations are businesses are having to make really quick decisions now, really important ones, whether it's relating to technology or whether it's relating to remote working. I think we all had to try and respond and be quite reactive there, and I think that's obviously naturally had to change. So through the sort of various lockdowns of that sort of thing, most firms have been a lot more disruption free this time round. But we're going to talk today about getting some time back, addressing issues before they become problems. And I suppose just a thought piece is, are we now having to make slightly quicker decisions on technology to deal with this kind of ever-changing working world? why does email matter? So I think there's lots and lots of people probably who, and I include myself in the past, have sort of thought, well, email's just another form of chat, it's just a text message, it's just like WhatsApp, you know, I'm going to send you an email saying there's cakes in the kitchen, that sort of thing. Is it really that important? But we've probably all been in a position where an email has become important. Often it's when things go wrong, or when somebody leaves the business, or when somebody's out, or when you're like, oh no, I've sent it to someone but I can't find it. And the key thing is, because we're not sending letters so much now, email has become the kind of letter of today. And we've probably seen, and I'm sure you've seen, the volume of email increase rather than decrease over the last 12 months. If anyone kind of hasn't seen that, then please put it in the chat. I sort of love to hear any alternative views. So what does your inbox look like right now? We've got a couple of options here, and I'm going to launch a poll. So if you can answer that, we always gather some really interesting data from this, which is used in different kind of reports and that sort of thing, which are obviously shared with yourselves. So what does your inbox look like right now? I think every business has an OCD filer. I've kind of been involved with email management software for over 10 years now, and every business has one person who files really consistently, dedicates time in the day to do it, and sometimes they're probably a joy to work with if you're having to share information with them, dare I say. Most people aren't like that, but some people do have a kind of process of keeping on top of emails, but probably don't have like a standardized approach to organizing it. They're just very hardworking and probably commit some extra time to make sure they're reading and responding where possible to emails. And then the final one is kind of probably one where it's got a little bit out of control. You've got thousands of emails unread, which you're probably never going to read. There's some of those will be important, some of those won't be. There's no real way of kind of I suppose deciphering that information. So I've launched a poll, and I'm just going to go and see what's come back so far. So we've got about, if I click on end polling, that's really interesting actually. So if I share that, you should see that on your screen. We've got 3 people who have got inbox 0, so well done, absolutely nailing it. And then a split of people who are on top of their emails in terms of kind of reading them and that sort of thing, and then half of us are suffering from email overload, which I think is completely normal. So as you can see there, if you're in either of those 2 final categories, you're certainly not alone, and we hope to show you something which can help. So I'll stop sharing that, and it should go off your screen. If it hasn't gone off your screen, again, please put it in the chat, and to be fair, I'll be able to do absolutely nothing, so I've just pressed stop. So yeah, I hope it's gone off. The importance of managing email in a post-pandemic world. So in terms of, I mean, I'm always interested to hear and talk to businesses who have adapted in different ways. I think we've all got a newfound appreciation of our business support functions, such as VIT team, and kind of how quickly things like Teams and Zoom and that sort of thing have had to be rolled out. But why it's been more important for us and businesses we work with across numerous sectors is the volume of email has gone up, absolutely, and we probably don't see that that's going to decrease. Just everyone's communicating as well as email. Email might be used slightly differently. So from it being the most informal form of communication, it's probably the most formal now. If you think about WhatsApp, Teams, and email's probably the one which is like, that's a definite record of who said what and on what date they've said it, and whether they've agreed to something, because other forms, whilst used, are naturally less formal. The other ones, I suppose, are just thinking about how ready is our business to compete and operate given remote working is here to stay. So have there been some disadvantages to everyone working from home, and how can we use technology not to get rid of those disadvantages, but at the very least to kind of decrease the effect they have on our business. And I think collaboration and visibility is a big part of that. If you've had staff who've been on furlough, then obviously there's information that they, is in their heads and in their inbox, which you have probably needed access to at some point. If you've had people come and go from a business, that's equally important. But I think also it's the conversations which you used to have in the office about the status of a piece of work, which was probably easier to do to call over to your colleague, whereas now that information has to be recorded, it has to live somewhere, and it has to be accessible by more than just one person. And I think those people and companies with inboxes of thousands and hundreds of thousands of information which could become liable in the future, we're seeing a massive rise in companies taking a proactive approach to trying to get some law and order to inboxes and some better visibility around them. So we're going to go through 5 actionable tips to tame your inbox, and some of these may apply, some of these may not. First one is a behavioral change, really, and that's around prioritization. I think when you've got tens of thousands of emails, it's quite difficult to decide, well, which ones am I gonna attack? So I think having some sort of goal for a day in terms of what you'd like to achieve from your inbox that day is really worthwhile. And I think prioritizing your client value adding work is naturally the first place that we should look to go to. I think what we need to do there is to deprioritize the stuff which is just noise. So sometimes that's internal traffic, but also, I'm always surprised at the amount of newsletters we'll respond to and kind of continue to get emails from, but never really read. So I think there's 2 options there. One is to set up a rule to move newsletters and that sort of thing to a separate place of your inbox to reduce your noise, because ideally your inbox is your to-do list. And the other one is obviously to just unsubscribe pretty ruthlessly. I appreciate we send out newsletters, so that may result in an increase in people unsubscribing from ours, but I think it's a good step to get a little bit of time back in your day. Step 2 is to reduce housekeeping time. So I think sometimes there's a temptation to just respond to everything as it comes in, and you're kind of firefighting through the day. So setting aside time to prioritize and look at your email is important, as long as you're shutting it down the rest of the time. But I think the key thing is, if you are setting time aside, you're able to file, respond, delete messages, which we don't do. I think we probably all respond to the ones we need to, and the ones which could and should be deleted just kind of stay there. But I think the key thing here is turn off the email pop-up, because it's distracting if you're focused on a task. Don't be afraid to turn your email off and then open it up at key points in the day, where as and when you can deal with something. And then when you're doing that, you'll feel more productive, because you're achieving something in that process, and not just kind of being controlled by what's coming into your inbox in that day. I do that. I always think if it is important, obviously people can pick up the phone if it needs to be attended to in the next 60 minutes or something, which I think most emails obviously don't. Actionable tip 3 is to streamline a to-do list. So this is kind of recognizing what's unfinished in your inbox and what's realistic. If you've got 10,000 emails, if you've got 500 unread emails, or however many it is, it's probably unrealistic to get that down to 0 and back under control today. So it's important to set some kind of goal around A, stopping it getting worse, and B, getting it down a little bit. So I think that's picking your top 3 or 4 most important tasks in your inbox to get done in a day. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that now, where there's 100 things you can do, and the most productive guys in the business will always pick off the 3 or 4 big things to tick off. Actionable tip 4 is minimizing unnecessary distractions, which I think is really important. Whether you're using WhatsApp, whether you're using Teams, whether you're using email, I think notifications aren't a good thing. We're all quite good at organizing and managing our time, and lots of us start our week off or day off with a good plan, but then as things come in through the day, you know, our day at 5 o'clock looks very different to how we thought it would at 9 o'clock. So I think thinking about distractions is a big thing. I think the more stuff we read about high performers in the workplace, a key thing in the modern age is how do I focus? Because focus is so difficult when there's so many things which can distract you. And I think now with particularly with kind of how much we're using Teams, that's even more relevant. So this means using your do not disturb, turning off your notifications, and only checking stuff at set times, because you're in control of what you're doing. A final tip is around automating filing. So I think the first thing really, which I'll talk about in our context, is actually recognizing the importance of filing. But I think that once you've done that, and once we've all agreed that there's a good quantity of emails which need to be filed and we need to be able to retrieve it at some point, is we probably can't rely on people to do that. Unless you're going to set aside time on a Friday to file stuff, it's just never going to happen. But we all work in teams and we all work with colleagues, and we all know that there's an importance in sharing information. And this has to go beyond just copying people in, because that's how we get into this position with tens of thousands of emails. It needs to be formally filed and recorded somewhere, which means A, in a court of law, we've got something to rely on, but B, if I just want to do my job and find something quickly, I'm able to do that. So I think key things we see staff and businesses doing at the moment are having an email management policy, which is like, this sort of stuff should be filed, and if it isn't, that's a problem. And as part of our QA, we're going to check that. But then from a personal point of view, I'm going to commit to, if I think it's, business, if I think this is of importance to the business, then I'm going to make sure it's filed. But it needs to be as automated as possible, because the volume of emails means it isn't realistic to just hope that people file them. But I think we've all been in a position where we've kind of thought, where's that? I need to find it, and it's a bit embarrassing when you when we can't. So in terms of how we at Arup and Mail Manager do it, it's three things really. We don't rely on people remembering to file. We don't think that A, people have the time because of volume of emails, but B, we just know that nobody likes admin, nobody likes filing. We all want to get on with our core day job, whether that's fee earning or whatever it is. We don't want to rely on people to remember to file, because we know that we'll get a percentage who will and percentage who won't. And when a process is adopted inconsistently, it effectively may as well not be there. From a searching point of view, if you're working on common themes, whether it's with clients, cases, or projects or something, then it's really important to be able to put some information in a central area which can be accessed by the individuals who need to access that information to do their job. So this means being able to access any email in 3 clicks, which is a big step change for businesses we speak to. I think the final one is recognizing the importance of record keeping, and whether you take anything from this webinar or not, I think that's probably something I'd like to leave you with, which is actually talking to staff about the importance of filing information, because I think there'll be people in your business now who will be sending and receiving messages which they don't think are important at all, but are. And I think kind of talking openly about this is the kind of stuff we really need to file. If it isn't filed, that's a problem, are the kind of conversations which probably we haven't had over the last 20 years. Our use of emails just evolved organically over time, and now is got to be the time where we take a bit of stock on how do we organize this stuff, and how do we file it, and what do we file, not just let's send and all go a bit CC happy when it comes to sharing stuff. So recognizing the importance of record keeping is really, really important. That's probably enough waffling from me. I'm going to hand over to Lucy now. So Lucy, if you want to share your screen, I'll stop sharing mine. If you want to share your screen, just provide a bit more of a practical insight into how Mail Manager organizes inboxes on a day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Jacob. Just share my screen for you guys now. Quite interesting points there, Jacob. I know we had a chat before Christmas. There's a couple on there that I've started doing, but I definitely need to incorporate a few more. So just double check. Can you see the screen all right, Jacob?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to show you today a system that Arup have developed, which we've got about 75,000 users on it now. What it's designed to do is automate the filing of emails, so none of us has to waste any time manually filing them, but also allow us to find any email across any of our project or client folders literally within 2 clicks. So I'm going to take you through the filing first, but in simple terms, Mail Manager is a simple Outlook plugin, which sits in the ribbon of Outlook up here. So there's a number of ways to file emails with Mail Manager, but the key thing is that it's designed to form part of our workflow within Outlook. So not just so that we don't forget to do it, but also so we're doing it as and when we're actioning them. So if we look at this email here from my colleague Alex, let's say, for example, it's a client maybe complaining about something or asking for a change in works, and I go and reply to it, and I just put something like, that's fine, please proceed. Now, rather than your standard process, it's probably either dragging and dropping it into your own personal folder in Outlook or just leaving it in the inbox. When I hit send, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to be prompted to file. Why is this important? We feel without this, you're back to square one, where things either stay in the inbox or it just goes into a personal folder. So we're driving the consistency and habit here, but we're also saving huge amounts of time. So Mail Manager will predict the project or client folder that it believes that email belongs to and should be stored in. And it does that in 2 ways. So it's got machine learning in it. It starts learning your filing behaviors, and it also has AI. So it reads the sender, the receiver, the subject, and the text within the body of the email. So all I have to do is literally hit one button which says send and file, and it's going to file that email, the one I've received, and my reply straight into the project or client folder, whether that be on a server or system like SharePoint. So really, really nice and simple and quick here. Same goes if I, for example, open up an email, again, have a read of it and go, you know what, I don't need to reply to this. And I go and close it down. Again, I'm prompted to file, one click of a button, and it's filed away. Now, you'll also have a copy of your emails in a subfolder in your inbox called filed items. So you've still got that comfort blanket of knowing your emails are still within your Outlook. Final thing probably to bring up on here, if you have come back off Christmas and you've got just a crazy inbox, we do have a bulk filing feature which allows you to move mass amounts of email over to the relevant folder within a couple of clicks. So just quickly going through that, if I select, say there's 3 emails here on a particular project, I click file email up the top, and again, I'm suggested the location it thinks it should go into, and it will move them all across. So ideally, once you start using this, you should finish your day or at least your week with a 0 inbox, which may sound hard to believe now, but promise you it can happen. So that's the filing. Next piece, which I suppose our end users really like, is the search, because at the moment they really lack visibility because all they're relying on is what they have been involved in or what they've sent and received. So to search for an email, you click this button up the top here, which brings a little pop-up out of Outlook like so. So I'm just going to make the screen bigger. Now, if you can all draw your attention to the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that I've got over 170,000 emails. Some of them I'm involved in, some I'm not, and that's across loads of client and project folders. But one important thing here, how do we control permissions? You can only see emails in folders that you've got access to. So it's going to mirror the existing permissions there. So we're going to go through 2 real quick examples. First one, just to show you the speed of it. Say I was looking for an email that contained a particular material. So I'm looking for an email that contains the word mahogany. In this box here up the top, you can type in any keyword or phrase that can be anywhere within that email. If you're like me, I can never remember who's put it where. So I'm going to type in the word mahogany, and if you keep your eyes on the bottom left-hand corner, make sure I spell this right now, pressure's on. There we go. Within 1 second, the email's come up. It's highlighted in yellow, the word it's picked up, and I've got it. So you preview there, double click the email, and it will pull it straight through from where it's being stored into Outlook, so you can forward, reply, whatever you need to do with it. But of course, appreciate you can't always search for random words like mahogany. Sometimes you need to put a few layers on top and filter it further. So if we want to search by client or project, in the top left where it says enter a location, we can put the client name or the project number. Click of a button, you've got everything in date order against that project. Now, let's say we're looking for an email on that project that we know we'd sent a contract. There's an issue on the project, we need it. So I've put my project filter in, and then all along the left, you can see different refine filters, but I want to use attachments. So I'm going to say, yes, it contains an attachment. I'm going to put in the attachment name, which could even be something like .pdf if you're looking for the type. And again, here's my email. I've got it ready to work on it. So I suppose in summary of this, hopefully you can see it's super, super fast. You've got lots and lots of filters you can use to get you down to that, one important email. But most importantly, you now have access to everything rather than just your own inbox. So you're going to be more empowered with information and ultimately knowledge. So hopefully that was a good snapshot. I'm going to hand it back to Jacob now, who will take you through the next part.
Thanks, Lucy. Really, really helpful. So yeah, as Lucy mentions, I mean, that's we've got kind of there's probably about 70 to 80,000 people across the globe using Mail Manager to manage their emails better and manage their inboxes better. And some of that comes down to actually automating the filing process to reduce the level of reliance on people to do it, but then importantly, giving you something back, which is more access than you've ever had. So in terms of that's I suppose to close off, it's really just to invite any final questions before we finish the webinar. I've seen a couple which have come in around filed items, which I've tried to answer kind of as they've come in. And then there was one question which came in from Chris Smith on what do you do if you've got thousands of emails in your inbox? So really important, and I think Lucy saw that, which is why we've picked up on the ability to file in bulk, either through filing multiple folders in one go or filing multiple emails. We recently had a client who migrated over, I think it was 20,000 folders in a couple of days to Mail Manager, which meant that everybody could search them within a few days once they were indexed. David Williams, so where do these files reside on our own corporate server? Question mark. Hi David, thanks for the question, really important. So they reside where you want them to, really. We don't think we should force you to store your information anywhere which you don't want which you don't want to use. So for most businesses, this is normally their corporate server. They want to store their emails alongside their other documents and other key records. But it could be that you're using Office 365 and want to store them in SharePoint, for example, or want to file them into a team in Microsoft Teams. So this is integrated into your server as well as the Office 365 suite. Next question, can an email be filed in more than one folder? Yeah, absolutely. So it's just 2 tick boxes if an email is relevant to 2 folders. You will then have 2 copies of it because it'll be in 2 folders, but obviously if the email is relevant to both, then it kind of needs to be in both. I'll just have a quick look at the chat feature. So Adrian, can you share a recording of this? I missed about 5 minutes in the middle due to a phone call. No problem, Adrian. Thank you very much for attending. Question from Anna, is there a deduplicate tool for email that is sent to me and my colleagues? Yes, absolutely. So we think you should only have 1 copy of an email, 1 copy of an attachment. So if you ever end up with more which are filed, Mail Manager will automatically deduplicate those and leave you with only 1 copy. Question from John. Hi, John. Does the inbox item disappear out of your inbox when it gets filed? No, that's completely up to you. The filed items folder is a folder in your inbox. It's just a way of giving you some organization between what's been filed and read and what hasn't been read and actioned. So your inbox is your to-do list, but the email doesn't disappear or anything. And if you want to file it and keep it in your immediate inbox, then that's an option as well. You can define those rules and then change them on an email by email basis. It's just important to have some defaults which mean that stuff actually gets filed. Question from Philippa. If the software reads the body of the text, what implication does that have in terms of privacy issues? Yeah, really important point. So Mail Manager, because it's an Outlook add-in, plugs in and sits on top of your business. So it sits on top and links into your folders, which means it looks at the permissions which are already there. So I'm sure there's folders now which you don't have access to because there's the permissions linked to it. And I'm sure there's folders where you do. So with Mail Manager, you'll never be able to file or search a folder you don't have access to. Might have been some more questions come in. Trying to keep up with them. Dismiss. Okay, I think that's it. I mean, thank you. Very great to see so many people attend a webinar like this, and hope that you've all got something useful and actionable from it. I'm sure we'll be in touch with you if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Mail Manager, and if it's relevant for your business, or if it's worth kind of trialing in your own inbox. But in the meantime, just like to thank you all for your time, and wish you the very best. And thanks, Lucy.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thanks a lot.